Hello and welcome to this module, Training for TwinStar Chronos MML Progressive Setup. In the material following, we will review and perform the following. Review the required software needed to support Chronos MML Progressive installation. Review some safety concerns. Perform the Chronos MML NAP Progressive Setup. Listed here, you can see all the software part numbers listed and required in order to perform this feature. When the feature is ordered, it will come as a bundled kit. Note, due to software improvements and changes, the software used during this recording was the current production release. For today's session, in addition to the BIOS, install, and the bundle kit, we will also need the MML dongle to enable this feature and the DRM dongle, since the game theme we are using requires licensing for each of the features. For safety, as stressed with all products, we need to practice this daily. Electrostatic discharge, or ESD, causes damage to sensitive components, so ensure we take all precautions necessary to prevent this from happening. As shown here, ensure to remove all jewelry and paying close attention to your surroundings, which include caution and warning labels, any notice labels, as well as potential shock hazard labels that could be within the cabinet itself. Lastly on this, also remember, unless told otherwise, when performing certain tasks on this cabinet, ensure you turn power off when necessary. Okay, to perform our Chronos MML NAP progressive installation, we will need to ensure we have all game options set prior to this setup. Please note, the steps following are the only steps on how to configure the MML NAP controller. As shown here, and after our general setup has been completed, select Games Setup. Here the Paytable Setup menu appears. Select your desired denomination as shown here. Note, when selecting your denomination, ensure the Paytable selected shows this program supports lap progressives. Select Next to verify your theme, denomination, and all your Paytable information is correct. Select Done after verifying everything. Upon selecting Done, you will be taken to the Paytable Setup menu. Select Finish and observe your game now has a check mark below the game, as well as at the bottom of the screen it shows the configuration saved successfully. Next, you will want to insert your Paytable Progressive dongle into the USB port located on your CPU without power cycling the game. When doing the installation and configuring process of the game, it isn't necessary to power cycle the game each time. Upon inserting the dongle, select the exit button on the top right of the screen as shown here. You will need to re-enter the setup menu to enable the EGM mode and multi-link drop-down menu as shown here in the middle of the screen. From the drop-down menu, select the multi-link bank controller. Observe, you will be taken to a separate menu. Select Setup from this menu. Once selected, observe the multi-link bank controller progressive configure screen. Select Set Controller Name. As shown here, I am using a name that I can easily relate to when setting up all client EGMs on the link of this setup. Select Configure Links from the menus below the controller name. Observe, you will have the game theme and Paytable in green. Here, we don't need to verify that this is correct and select Next at the bottom right of the screen. At the next menu, again, we are only verifying the information is correct for the denomination and the number of levels that are going to be used for this setup. Select Next. The next menu appears will be your reset parameters as called out by the game for the progressive levels. Note, at this time, if a customer wants to add money to the current reset, you will add to the total and type the amount in the override amount columns for each of the levels as instructed. This is a one-time change, so if you do not add it here, you will need to do an NVRAM clear to change. Upon making changes as requested by customer, select Save. Observe you will be returned back to the main page. Select Start Progressive. This starts your MML feature. Note: after you've selected Start, notice that only the View or Edit link buttons isn't grayed out. As stated earlier, should you want to make changes to this menu, you will need to do a NVRAM clear. Select Home at the top right of your screen to return to the main menus with the drop-down menu features. Select EGM mode. Select Setup. Select IP Setup from the menus on the left side of the screen. As shown here, enter the following IP address: 192.168.15.1 and change subnet mask to 255.255.255.0. Select Save. Observe once saved, the DHCP enabled shows false, as shown here. Next, select BNG Setup from the menus on the right. Select under the type, the MML line. This enables the Edit button on the lower right of the screen. Next window to appear is the Group ID. Select your game name you programmed earlier in the MML Setup part and select Save. Observe the connection status shows it is disconnected. Select Manual Host Discovery at the bottom right of the screen. Enter the following IP address: 192.168.15.1. Notice two things will take place. While entering the IP, it states format is incorrect until the complete IP address is added, and the Save button does not come on until the IP address is entered correctly. Select Save. Note: once IP address has been entered and saved, it will show on the left side of the screen under List of Host IP Addresses. This is a great tool to use for communication. Once you've saved your entry, select the Previous button at the bottom right of the screen. Observe your status. It should now say Connected. Note: if you do not have a connection, before proceeding any further, troubleshoot your communication issue before completing the remainder of this setup. Next and last step to perform will be the Progressive Setup. Select Progressive from the menus on the left of the screen. Again, observe the Progressive configuration screen appears. Select Configure Themes from your options. Again, for the next two menus, we want to just verify that the information is set correctly. So select Next from the Game Theme and Pay Table menu, and select Next to verify the denomination and levels are set correctly. Should you need to make any changes as per the customer's request, take a photo of each screen you have modified and attach to your service ticket. Select Next. Observe you are now taken to the Assign Controller to Level menu. Ensure you have the MML NAP highlighted green for each level you are using for this setup. Select Done at the bottom right. You will return to the Progressive Configuration menu. Now, select Configure Controller. Select the MML NAP radio button. You'll be taken to the Host Group Assignment NAP page. Here, you will select the multi-link host name from the drop-down menu. Select Save. You will then return back to the Progressive Configuration screen. Once you've viewed this page, the setup of the MML NAP has been completed. You can select the BNG setup once more to verify your connection is still communicating. For all clients, you will set up the game as normal, and for the MML NAP setup, go to the IP setup page, enter the IP address for each client, EGM, and save. Then select the BNG setup to point the client to the host by entering the IP address of the host and select Save. This completes the setup of the host and client EGMs for the MML NAP setup. Should you have any questions or concerns, contact our technical support team for further assistance. Thank you for taking the time to view this material. Please visit our technical training SharePoint for other training materials on our vast assortment of products for scientific games.